So Spider-Man Brand New Day was directed by Destin Daniel Cretton and once again features Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Jacob Batalon reprising their roles from previous Spider-Man movies. Also this time features Jon Bernthal reprising his role as Frank Castle. Also features Mark Ruffalo, Sadie Sink, Tramell Tillman, whole bunch of people appear in this movie, and taking place after the events of Spider-Man No Way Home, after the events of that movie, and that everyone's memories was just wiped of Peter Parker and Spider-Man and such. Peter Parker is now living alone. He's working as Spider-Man almost all by himself. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But he doesn't really have anyone that he can talk to about his various problems, and he has a lot of issues in this movie, including new powers that are just adapting, him running into his friends again, and also a new threat that he didn't expect to see. So, anytime a Spider-Man movie is released, I'm normally very excited. And if you saw all my reviews of the Spider-Man movies, you'll know that I'm very excited about this movie overall. And I honestly will say this, I had a really good time with this movie. I thought it was a blast. I don't know if this is my favorite Spider-Man movie yet. I think right now it's my second favorite Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. I still like No Way Home more than this, but I definitely like it more than Homecoming and Far From Home, but I'm definitely going to see this movie again. I had a blast watching this movie. I thought a lot of it worked really well, and I will probably do a spoiler review after I see it a second time. So let's start off with the things I do like about this movie. First off, I thought all the actors did a really good job, particularly Tom Holland once again as Peter Parker, and I liked the direction they kind of took his character in, and how he's basically now he's not really just a kid trying to learn the ropes and such. He's actually an adult who actually is dealing with a lot of things. That's like, okay, this is finally what I wanted from this character. This is finally what I wanted from not just Spider-Man, but from his version of Spider-Man. I really like seeing him actually being an adult and actually figuring things out on his own rather than just trying to get a mentor and such. Also, Jon Bernthal in this movie is probably the best I've seen him as the Punisher. I thought he was really good. I thought he had great timing, great chemistry with Peter in this movie. I thought that was really good. The performances are really good for the most part. Zendaya, pretty good in this movie. I don't think she's as good as she was in No Way Home, but given the circumstances of her character in this movie, it does make a lot of sense. Sadie Sink, I thought, was pretty good with her role. Mark Ruffalo is pretty cool to see in this movie too, but I'll talk about him in a little bit because I feel like they kind of don't really do much with a lot of characters in this movie. The action sequences in this movie. When I heard Destin Daniel Cretton was directing this movie, I knew this movie was going to have great action sequences because the sequences in his other Marvel movie, Shang-Chi, wow, that movie has some of the best action sequences in Marvel movies in general. I thought the action in this movie was also really good. Like, a lot of the fight scenes are really cool, especially one towards the end where he's fighting the Hand. I thought that was really cool to see. And I definitely feel like it's a step up from John Watts' action sequences and such, which I felt like weren't that strong to begin with, but eventually got better. But Destin Daniel Cretton working with Spider-Man, automatically great. And also, the movie does go into some unique directions that I kind of didn't expect it to go to. Well, I mean, I kind of expected to go into a few directions, but at least the movie takes its time to develop them. Obviously, if you know the ending of No Way Home, and Ned and MJ don't remember Peter anymore, so they don't know who he is. And the movie itself does take a while to play with that. I feel like at least it's mature enough to handle that situation, and I feel like the way they handle it is actually a lot better than I feel like a lot of movies would do. Like, this will be the only spoiler I will give for this movie right now, but it's like, it doesn't resolve itself right away, and I actually do like that it doesn't resolve itself right away. Also, I do think there are some fun homages to the other Spider-Man movies, but particularly the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, which, if you saw my reviews of those, you'll know that I'm a big fan of those movies. I'm even kind of a defender of Spider-Man 3 in a bit, but there's a lot of really fun Easter eggs from that movie in this movie, and I thought that was really cool to see. And also, I just kind of like Spider-Man being Spider-Man officially. Like, I feel like all those movies were kind of like his origin story, like, Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home. That was just his origin story. So now we can finally get to see him being this character and actually kind of doing a lot of really cool things and such. And I felt like it was actually the first time I saw Tom Holland actually being Spider-Man, and I actually really like seeing him in that role. And I will say this movie is still pretty fun and pretty funny, even though this movie does kind of become a little bit more serious than some of his other movies and such. It's still fun, and there are still some funny bits here and there, but it's not overly relying on the comedy. But when the comedy does work, it's actually pretty funny, unlike some of his other movies where it's like they linger too long on the comedy. This one is still fun despite despite the fact that the movie is a little bit more heavy than I would have expected from this movie. But I feel like it works. It's not like the Amazing Spider-Man movies where it's like it's just everything's just dark and depressing, it's moody. No, it's actually working, and it actually kind of reflects what Peter's going through. It's like, okay, I'm liking that. I feel like this movie is a lot of fun. I'm definitely really excited to see this movie again. But let's talk about some things I don't really like. Now, even though I really liked seeing some of the homages in this movie, there are times where it's like I was kind of rolling my eyes at the homages. Some of them were just too on the nose. Now, I won't spoil them, but you can definitely tell if you love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, you're gonna catch them right away, like I did. And there's sometimes where it's like they are a bit too obvious, and I just felt like they kind of do away with them, thankfully. So there's that. Also, I feel like they have a few too many characters that they don't really use in this movie. Like, for instance, Peter has a new detective partner in this movie, played by Liza Colin-Zayas. If I'm mispronouncing that, I do apologize. But her character doesn't really have too much to do, and then there's some interactions where it's like, oh, okay, I kind of like this whole dynamic that Peter has with this detective. Let's see if there's any more of this. They don't really do much with it, unfortunately. Also, Mark Ruffalo does return as the Hulk. You kind of see most of his scenes in the trailer, and he doesn't really do too much, but I kind of wish they did more with his character. Also, there's a mention that MJ has a new boyfriend in this movie, and he only appears in one scene, and the only other time he's mentioned is when she kind of mentions that it's not really a great relationship. You could have done a little bit more with that, I feel like. Maybe it's like, okay, we don't want to make Peter too angry and jealous, but we also, again, I feel like the movie is trying to be a lot more mature than what I expected it to be. So it's like, I feel like it still works for what they're trying to go for. And also, I feel like there weren't too many surprises with this movie. And I don't know if it's just because, like, I remember just being really excited for No Way Home. Probably more excited for No Way Home than I was for this movie. But I was just kind of like avoiding a lot of things with that movie. In this movie, I felt like I kind of knew a lot of stuff that was already leaked, which I won't say here because they tried to hide it themselves. And I felt like there weren't as many surprises as there were in the previous movie. But overall, I will still say that Spider-Man Brand New Day is a really good Spider-Man movie. Definitely up there. Definitely, I would say, if we're just talking the live-action Spider-Man movies, I'm not going to count the animated Spider-Man movies in this. It's definitely up there with like Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, and definitely No Way Home as some of my favorites of Spider-Man. I will say the performances are really good, particularly from Tom Holland and John Bernthal, who kind of carry this entire movie. It does go into a few interesting directions I didn't expect the movie to go into, but it does work. The action sequences are really good. It does feel fun and still funny despite some of the heavier subject matter that the movie's dealing with. Also, I kind of like how the villain is kind of like moving around and such, where it's like, if you kind of see, when you see the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's kind of interesting to see how this villain moves and such, which I will probably talk about more in a spoiler video, which give me a week to do because there's really nothing coming out next weekend. There are some fun homages to the other Spider-Man movies, even though they can become a little too much at times. And I kind of just love seeing Spider-Man being Spider-Man and finally getting to see him in this role and actually just seeing him, I'm just glad that we finally have a proper Spider-Man from Tom Holland. And even though I will say the homages are a bit too much, and I wish some of the characters had a bit more to do, and I feel like there weren't as many surprises as the last movie, this is still a really good Spider-Man movie. For right now, I will give it 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, how would you rank all the Spider-Man movies? I'll probably do a ranking list either in my spoiler review for this movie or maybe in a separate video a couple days after that. So, comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.